Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. If you are new, my name is Melissa and I do a number of things on my channel, but the majority of what I do tends to be product reviews, and that's what I'm here to do today. If you are watching this and enjoy it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And if you also enjoy it and are not subscribed, I would encourage you to do so. You can subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below. And today we are going to get into talking about the Studiomakeup On The Go palette that I received in my November Boxycharm box. So if any of you are fellow Boxycharm subscribers, you may have had the same feeling I did when you got this, which was, wait a minute, didn't I get that 2 months ago? Or even last month? And it wasn't until I opened up the palette that I realized that it was a different color selection. And I'll just open up the other one. I didn't even notice when I received the first palette that this one is actually called Warm Up, and this one is called Cool Down. And these are the two palettes. So I've done a review on this palette already, the Warm Up palette. And in that I talked more about the Studiomakeup On The Go, or I should say Studiomakeup Company. So if you're interested in that, I'll provide a link to it down below, and also provide a link to it at the end of this video. In a wrap-up I did of the month where I reviewed this, I did talk about trying to find this in store, so I'll just talk about that briefly now. Studiomakeup was a company that was hard to find information about, partly just because their name, Studiomakeup, it's so generic that if you Google, if you look for it beyond just their website, you get a lot of things that don't actually have to do with the brand. So on their website, I found an info area because I was looking for where to find it in store. And they said, if you're looking for locations that sell the product, send us an email. So I sent them an email and I waited, I think, 2 or 3 days, maybe even a bit longer, to get a response back from them. And what they sent me was a couple of spreadsheets that very much looked like internal spreadsheets because it wasn't organized very well. It had store numbers, it talked about which ones were new. In any case, I actually found one in my town, and I went there to find Studiomakeup, and I did find their selection. It's one of those in a drugstore but slightly higher end displays. What I did mention, and I'll mention again about this palette, is the Boxycharm box talks about this being basically a $50 palette. And if you look at their website, it feels very out of scale with the cost of the rest of their items. I mean, $50, that's more than the Kylie Jenner palette that looks very much, you know, the layout and whatnot like this. And that's one that has a huge amount of hype and celebrity behind it and everything else. So I found it strange they said in Boxycharm this was a $50 palette. And I also found when I went to the store, these weren't on the display anywhere. So I could be a little cynical. I maybe think that these were specifically made to be put into Boxycharm boxes and say they have a certain value, that maybe it isn't. I think these are fine palettes. I think they're good palettes. I've been reaching for the Warm Up one a lot, and I've been playing with the Cool Down one too. I just don't know that I would pay $50 for something that is a cardboard palette with no mirror or anything in it, from a brand that I'd not heard of before. But that is all the part about the company. Let's get on to talking about the palette itself. And what I'm going to do here is put in a few swatches with finger swatches, brush swatches, and then for the ones that are more of the foiled look, some wet MAC Fix Plus swatches as well. So if we talk about the top row, I do find these to all be very soft, buttery shades. The first shade here is a very, not shimmery, but foiled white. And I will see if I can show you. That is the white right there. I do find it's a little hard to show up on my skin. My skin is a bit paler, but that is a finger swatch of the white. If I do a brush swatch, and I'm doing it with the little crown pencil brush that I received in my box, it also shows up quite well. Maybe just a little bit less than the finger swatch. This next shade here is going to be hard to pick up on camera. I find it's hard to pick up on my skin as well. And I've done a finger swatch there and a brush swatch below it. For me, that one is very close to skin tone. It is buttery, it is everything else, but I found the only thing that I've been using this one for is to put it all over my lid as a base to start, because it sort of evens out the skin tone of my lids. But just personally for me, I don't end up using it for anything that's going to show up a lot, but it does feel very nice, and it does go on very smooth. This last swatch here I really enjoy the color of, and that's a finger swatch and a brush swatch, a dry brush swatch I should say, and it is this really nice light, almost peachy coppery color, and that is this one right here in the palette, and it is beautiful. I'm using it for an inner corner highlight today, and I'll zoom in a moment to show you what I've done, the look on my eyes, but it is a nice again, foiled color that I have been using and enjoying. And it is foiled but still subtle, which is quite nice. As far as the MAC Fix Plus swatches go, I've actually not tried doing this before, so we're going to see it together. I'll start off with the more foiled light shade there, and let's just see, let's do it here. Oh yeah, so that shows up really nicely as a nice light shade. And for this sort of peachy coppery one, I'm just gonna do it, how about right here? Yeah, that does show up nicely. I wouldn't say there's a huge difference between the wet MAC Fix Plus and using it just on the finger. So sometimes when I'm doing the middle of my lid and I use this nice white shade here for the middle of my lid, I'll just use my finger on it and pat it on because I find I get the most color payout that way. So we'll now move on to the next row, and I do find that this was the one that I want to say most disappointed in. It's another shimmery shade, but this one really is shimmery and it's got kind of a gritty feeling to it. It does have a nice color payout. That's just the finger swatch there. It's beautiful. It's just not quite as buttery as the other ones. And let me just get a dry brush and show you the swatch. So it still does quite nicely as a brush swatch, and let's do some MAC Fix Plus. Yeah, so that one is really nice with the MAC Fix Plus as well. But again, I would say I think I like it better with the finger. So if I was going to use this, I would probably try to pat it on with my finger and then blend it out a little bit. This middle shade here is one that I've been using quite a bit as a crease shade. And again, it is very nice and buttery and soft. So there's the finger swatch of that there. And it's kind of a brownish taupey color, which is quite nice with some almost gray undertones. I think. I'm not an artist or anything like that. I just try to describe things how I see them. And using my pencil brush here, it also goes on quite nicely with that. So there's no problem with the brush swatches on some of these mattes not being as nice as the finger swatches. So the final one here is this sort of purpley dark color, which I think shows up a little bit more purple when I look at it than it's showing up on the camera. This one again is really buttery and nice, and it has sort of a bit of a foiled look to it, but not too much. But look at that, isn't that pretty? It is a sort of taupey, but more of the purple pull to it. And with the crown brush, the pencil brush, it also goes on quite well, not quite with the intensity of the finger swatch. And for MAC Fix Plus, yeah, you do get a nice intensity as well. Still, I would probably end up using my finger to pat this on instead of using the MAC Fix Plus. Finally, we're on to the bottom row, and I feel like this is the color a lot of people would be attracted to because it is that maroon matte deep shade there. And I do have to say this is not nearly as soft and buttery as the other matte shades are. It still comes out quite nicely though. It feels like it was a little bit harder for them to get the consistency of it, with it being more of a reddish, purplish maroon color. And with my pencil brush, you still get some nice intensity of payoff and you can build it up quite a bit. This one in the middle here is a brownish shade. It again is quite buttery. I've been using this, I don't tend to go into the darkest, deepest one quite as much. So I've been using this if I'm darkening up the outer corners of my eyes. And you can see that shade there. Again, the mattes are coming out really nice in this palette. And with my crown brush, it's a little bit harder to get that color, but I do know that you can build it up with the brush. And finally, this darkest one here, which is almost a dark gray more than it is a black. I don't tend to use these ones as much because the darks are really unforgiving on me. It does pull a little towards taupe when you look at it. It's not a true black, but we did get a black in the warm-up palette, so I think they were going for a dark shade here that wasn't quite the black. It was a little bit more charcoal. And with the brush. So those are the bottom row of mattes. As I said, I have been enjoying quite a bit playing around with this palette. I don't think the colors they show you on the back are anything like the actual colors. They look really pinky when you look at them here. But I have been reaching for this because I do like the cool tones. There's something fun about the coppers and the shimmers. I think the foiled shades in here were more spectacular. You put some of them on, it was like, wow, look at that bronze, look at that copper, that's amazing. But I really like the mattes in here, and I think you can do quite a bit with them. So for my eye look today, I did another look where I did dark on the inner and outer corner, medium shade, and then one of the shimmers, did something in my crease, so I'll just show you here. Basically what I did was I took this color and put it on the very outside and very inside just of my lid. I then went in with this color here, which is that sort of a little bit foiled, almost purpley brown color, and laid it down just beside, leaving a space in the center of my lid. I then used my finger to go into this really nice foiled white and put it right on the center for a highlight. I then use the shade right in the middle as my crease color to blend both my crease, but also blend the tops of the colors that I put on my lid. And I just use a little touch of, actually it was this color here, to do a little bit of darkening just at the outside. For my inner corner highlight, I went in with this color right here. I think it's a nice soft color. It doesn't give too much of a contrast between my skin and the inner corner highlight. And then I used a little bit of this just underneath my eye. I tend not to do a lot of color under my eye as I am a little bit older, like late 30s, and I have a couple bags and wrinkles under there. I do find that putting too much dark color underneath my eyes drags me down a little bit. But I did use a little bit of this just in the outer edge of my lash line on the bottom. So I will just zoom you in here so you can take a bit more of a look. I also did some eyeliner and just some mascara. And there we go. The final thing I want to talk about in this video is another item that I received in my November Boxycharm box, and that is this crown brush, C513. So this is the second crown brush I've received in a subscription box. I also received one that I use almost every day for my blush, but this one is the first pencil brush that I've ever received. And I should even say it's the only one I have in my collection. And as a beginner, I am really enjoying this. It gives me so much control, and I find that if I'm trying to do looks that are very new to me, I can use the pencil brush to lay the color exactly where I want it and then go in and blend. I think some people who are more experienced and better at this than I am can take a blending brush and put it and blend out right away. For me, that tends to start getting a little bit muddy just because I'm not 100% sure of what I'm doing. So I really like this. And I believe because it is made from natural bristles, it really picks up the color really well and blends it really well. So crown brushes, I know, are not expensive brushes. They're inexpensive. I went to their website. They have a whole line of different brushes, and I'll link their website down below. A whole line of different brushes in different natural fibers and synthetic fibers. And I did a whole thing talking about different brushes and what's best and worst and how they're made. And I'll link that down below as well. That's when I was reviewing the Luxie brushes. What they also have is a whole line of makeup that I've never heard of before. There is a little bit of controversy around Crown Brush, and I don't want to say around Crown Brush specifically. The issue is that they are a brush private label distributor. So when companies like makeup lines have brushes, they don't tend to have a manufacturing plant where they are actually making their own brushes. Like, I don't think MAC has a factory somewhere where they're making them. They will usually go through a manufacturer. They will give them specific things that they want as part of that, different specifications for quality, what they want them to look like. And then a company that actually manufactures brushes will show them what they've designed and they will agree to it, blah, blah, they get made. So Crown Brushes is very upfront on their website about the fact that they do private label. So if I started my own, makeup line and I wanted to have brushes, I could go to Crown and specify what I wanted, get my name put on the handle, select a few of their different brushes, and then they would have my name on it and I could resell them. From what I gather, Morphe brushes and I think Coastal Scents brushes are done through Crown. And I believe a number of makeup lines are also done through Crown. So my thought is, I don't think this is a bad thing for Crown. I think what some people get upset about is they think that they're buying a product and then there's another possibly cheaper product on the market they could buy. But I'm enjoying both of my Crown brushes, and I would say if I was looking to buy a set of brushes as a beginner, because I know there are better quality brushes, but as somebody who's just starting out, I would probably go to Crown and buy some of their brushes, because there's a good chance that other brushes that are on the market are actually being manufactured by Crown. So that's most of what I have to say about this. I have no problem. I mean, I was curious looking at the makeup and thinking, I have never seen anybody use Crown makeup before. As far as I can tell, I haven't gone searching for it, but from the beauty gurus that I watch on YouTube, I've not really come across it. But that doesn't mean that it's bad, but I quite am enjoying the brushes. So that is my review for today of the Studiomakeup On The Go, as well as the Crown brushes. I will put all of the relevant links down below for everything that I've talked about. Once again, if you like this, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, I would encourage you to do so. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.